Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do is get the rear wheel up in the air. Once you've got the rear wheel up in the air, you're going to take your 6mm Allen key and remove the old brake caliper. There's 2 bolts, and these are tightened to 12 Newton meters, so they are fairly tight. You're going to want to fully remove these bolts and set them aside. Next, you can lift your caliper up and out of the way. Now it's time to remove the rear wheel. To do that, you take your 17mm socket and your 6mm hex key. So you want to hold the axle with the 6 and fully remove the nut on the opposite side. Now once you've removed the nut, you can usually just push the axle out by hand. Once you've got the axle most of the way out, now it's time to get the chain off of your sprocket. You can usually just set it aside like that. And once you fully remove the axle, this old brake mount is probably just going to fall on the floor. You can see the old brake mount just pops right off. Save that for if you ever need it. Now it's time to install our anodized Luna brake mount. To do this, the brake mount itself needs to sit in this little recess on the little axle cap. So go ahead and just hold that in with your hand, and then with this little groove here, you want to line this up to the little tab on the frame. Now once you've gotten it somewhat lined up, it's time to get this axle into place. Just install it most of the way, and then go ahead and get your chain back on and retighten the wheel. You want to be sure you get the wheel nice and tight before you put your brake back on, otherwise your brake's not going to line up. Now this rear axle is the tightest bolt on the whole bike. This is 55 Newton meters, which is very, very tight. Now it's time to remount your brake. There is one thing to mention. When you have the brake caliper off of the rotor or disc, you want to be sure you don't accidentally squeeze the brake. If you do squeeze the brake, the little pads are going to squeeze together and stay closed. If you do accidentally squeeze the brake, you can wedge a little flathead screwdriver in here and spread the pads again. So now that it's time to get the brake mounted again, I like to get both the bolts all the way tight, and then I loosen them a little bit. And the reason I loosen them is so I can recenter the caliper, and then I get them really tight. So these are loosened back up. I was able to get these right in the center. And then 12 Newton meters is fairly tight, so give these a good tightening. Double check that everything's aligned. You can spin the wheel a few times, squeeze the brake a few times, and now you have a well-protected rotor and a very pretty bash guard.